So, I just got back from filming a pseudo debate, a civil discussion on debate issues. This was put on. This is the flyer that they gave for it. This is a. It was put on by Vanguard Church. Yes, I went to a church to see this. I'm going to a church next week, by the way. I'm going to Tri Lakes Methodist Church in Monument, because I'm going to the church to talk to them because I actually am running the polls in their church on Tuesday, and there won't be anyone there on Monday because churches aren't open on Mondays. No, they're open on Sundays. So, in order to touch base with them and see what's going on in the area, surveil it, you know, I am going to go to church on next Sunday. But this Sunday, I just saw this, okay? And this is civil dialogue regarding the debate, right? And it had two people in it. Jim Daly, the president of Focus on the Family, and John Weiss, the owner of the Colorado Springs Independent, which is the second biggest newspaper in the area. It's the one that's free. That's, they put it out in every place that you would pick up a free newspaper. Also in the guitar stores, you can pick it up there, and it always has like concert listings as the big focus. And if you have something in your neck of the woods like The Rocket in Seattle, or something like that, you probably know what I'm talking about. Every city seems to have something like that, or university newspapers. That's what his newspaper basically is. It's one step above a university newspaper, one step below the Gazette. And it's run by ad revenue. It's online too at csnd.com. But Focus on the Family, Jim Daly is president. That's different than Dr. Dobson, the founder. They really have taken a different approach to things. I'll give them that much. It's still the same politics, the same platform, but they are not the same as when Dobson was running them. So, yeah, here's the two speakers right here. Right? So I go into this thing thinking, they're going to talk about all these issues, starting with abortion, going through economy, and individual moral freedom and moral policies, and health care and undocumented families, and the most important issue facing our nation today. I figured that was what I was going to see. But it was not anything like a debate. In fact, this would be like if you picked your opponent who was going to be debating you, and you picked somebody who you knew was a fan of yourself. Because at the end of this was the shocker to me. John Weiss, the owner of the Independent, the guy that was supposed to have the liberal side of things. He's the owner of the Independent. Of course he's liberal, right? No, he's just Colorado Springs liberal. He's just down the street from Focus on the Family liberal. He's not exactly liberal. In fact, at the end of the show, he held up a book called Refocus, right? And Refocus is John Weiss's book about the changes that Jim Daly made at Focus on the Family, and how good it is that they were so controversial, for the last 20 years. And then when Jim Daly took over, now they've got a new face, and it's a new direction, basically no debate whatsoever, really. I would say there was one jab that I really liked from Jim Weiss, as far as it was about government funding of abortion, He Jim Daly, president of Focus on Family, he said that it's wrong to tax Christians who are opposed to abortion and then have the government spend money on it, right? And John Weiss, his comeback for that, which was brilliant, I hadn't heard it before, it was that there are certain sects of Christianity, like Jehovah's Witnesses, and there's the Baha'i faith, and then there's Quakers and Mennonites. They're opposed to war. So why are we spending money on war and taxing them? You know, that was awesome. So the reason why I'm making this video, this Ramble video, is because I walked out of this church after I talked with Fred, who he's another board member of the Freethinkers of Colorado Springs, and you know, I was like, yay, there's Fred. I talked with him, and then we walked out of the church, and this lady asked me, would you like a voter's guide? And those of you who know me know, of course I'm going to say yes. Of course. You know, of course I want a voter's guide coming out of a church. Yes! Yes! Give it to me! And then she offered one to Fred, and he was hesitant. I was like, yes, he wants one too. As we were walking away, he said, well, this should be good for a laugh. You know? And it is. So, she handed us 2 pamphlets, right? The first is why Christians should vote. No, the lady asked, would you like a voter's guide? The event was catered towards non-denominationally, including the minister who introduced the event. He actually said, and you know there's something different about the town when the atheist websites are promoting all the atheists to come to our church, you know. So these people know that there's people other than Christians there, you know. And she hands me this, and it says, why Christians should vote. And it is very lulzy. And it's from Commit to Vote 2012, which is a .com. You can go check out what they are. But before you do, I do want to warn you that CommitToVote.com is a subsidiary of Focus on the Family. So, yeah. Here we go. Honor, privilege, and duty. Americans are blessed to have the right to be involved in our system of government. But democracy has one key requirement, our participation. No, you weren't blessed with something from God. This wasn't a gift from God. Your forefathers of your country built this. Okay, this was built by man. Okay? We continue. The most basic democratic participation is voting, yet it can also have the most profound impact. When you vote, you help determine who will lead our nation, make our laws, and protect our liberties. Correct. More than a right, voting is a privilege millions of people in other parts of the world can only dream about. Still, many Americans choose not to vote. I'm going to agree with the sentiment of what they're saying there. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, as many as 29% of citizens were not registered to vote in 2008. That's 60 million people. More than 1/3 of eligible voting citizens did not vote in the last presidential election. Well, I think that if you want more participation in government, maybe you should stop supporting conservative efforts to disenfranchise people. because when you support those conservatives who engage in disenfranchisement politics, then you're going to have 60 million people not registered to vote. Just saying. Just saying. Let me get some dew here. Since this is another presidential election year, we have the opportunity to positively impact the direction of our country. Will you commit to take part by registering and voting your values? Yeah, I'm going to vote my values, but I imagine that they're wanting people to vote these values, the Christian values. It's funny. They say Christian values, but there's just as many Christian Democrats as there are Republicans. Just saying. Okay. The influence of faith. I can tell right now I'm going to completely hate this paragraph. This is actually the first time I've read this, so I'm scared. Okay, here we go. Our faith in God should influence our values in life, including the political arena. We shouldn't be bashful about injecting our beliefs about what is right and wrong into public debates. These ideas come from moral standards which help prevent a free society such as ours from sliding into social chaos. People of faith, grounded in moral truth, must be prepared to discern those candidates best able to uphold moral values. That was the end of the paragraph there. And I just want to say that if you're a person of faith, how are you discerning anything? To discern something means something completely different than deciding by faith. When you discern something, you would take some information from some sources and then make a decision. Faith-based reasoning is like, what did my pastor tell me to vote? What would God do? Here we go. Next paragraph. As Christ's representatives on earth, we have a mandate to be the salt and the light in our culture. Tom Minery, Senior Vice President of Government and Public Policy at Focus on the Family, says, our government asks for our participation. We have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, in Lincoln's memorable phrase. We Christians have a duty as citizens to lend our government our involvement. I'm going to agree that Christians, just like every other citizen, have a duty to be involved in government. But not just Christians, and not to the detriment of other religious people or irreligious people. Just to be represented as people. Of the people, by the people, for the people does not mean the Christian people and push the other people out. By involving more Christians, and less of those other folk. above right here, there's a caption. It's from Billy Graham. It says, "If America is to survive, we must elect more God-centered men and women to public office, individuals who will seek divine guidance in the affairs of the state." Okay, so I disagree. I think if America is to survive, we need to seek science-centered men and women to elect them to public office, individuals who will look for evidence-based reasoning in the affairs of state. So yeah, Billy Graham, not the wisest of people to be quoting. You know, people quote Billy Graham as if he were some great thinker because he wrote a lot of books. People write those kind of books all the time nowadays, and I think his words are just it's the same crap that any other minister says. And just because somebody had a long career on the road does not mean that they were good at what they did. Okay? And I know I'm going to piss some people off here, but you know what? Bob Dylan is still touring. You know, people quote Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan, as a musician, his voice especially sucks. Alright? The Emperor has no clothes. Bob Dylan sucks. Fish. Fuck Fish. Phish. You know, there's a reason why they're not on the radio, and it's not because they choose not to be and they're therefore cooler. You know, the reason why they're not on the radio is because they're not good enough for the radio. And there's all sorts of things I could point to, you know, where talent is not necessarily something that you find when you see somebody who is successful at what they do. Okay? It just does not follow in every case. Billy Graham and his son, same thing. Next paragraph. Voting your values. Here's a sobering thought. Some believers fail to consider their biblical values when voting, sometimes choosing candidates whose positions are at odds with their own beliefs, convictions, and values. A study by the Pew Forum on Religion and Public Life found that nearly 60% of Americans say religion has little effect on their voting decisions. It's not sobering, really. It's like the people who use the word awesome, you know. They use awesome so much. What do they do when they actually come across something that they should call awesome or amazing, you know? And really, I think that they're missing the point here. They're not choosing candidates who are at odds with their beliefs. Focus on the Family thinks that anyone who calls himself a Christian should vote the way that they think that they should vote. They should hold beliefs that they think that they should have on all of these moral issues. And it's just not the case. There are just as many Christian Democrats as there are Christian Republicans. There's not enough people who aren't Christian in America to make up a political party as big as the Democratic Party without having a whole bunch of Christians over there. It's just... And when I say just as many, I mean like there's millions there, there's millions there. There probably are slightly more Christians in the Republican Party than there are in the Democratic Party. But both of them have millions of Christians. So many that I would not want to be the one counting it. Okay? When you say that these people are voting against their own values, no, they're not. They're voting for the candidate that reflects their values. These are Christians who believe in democratic values. It exists. Christians who believe in democratic values. It happens. Okay? It happens a lot. Most of the Christians that I am friends with on YouTube, most of them that I am friends with have democratic values. Next paragraph. The ministry of voting. Man, that hurts. That hurts bad. Ugh. Your vote can be a form of ministry. After all, when you vote, you are directly and indirectly impacting people's lives. By the candidates you select and the ballot measures you support, you are making a practical difference for the good and bad in the lives of, and we've got a bulleted list here, preborn children, and then in parentheses, abortion policy. I'm just going to give them that they are using preborn children as a euphemism for abortion policy, and then saying, this is what the world calls preborn children. They call it abortion policy, but we understand that these are actually children that. I understand that they're using that like a euphemism, and if we look at the very next thing in this bulleted list, impressionable youth, and then in parentheses, pornography laws and education policy. Yeah. No, that's not the right euphemism for pornography laws and education policy. Impressionable youth. They're not the same things. And you're making practical difference in impressionable youth's lives, I guess, but pornography laws and education policy? Yeah, and since when do radical right groups have any possible positive impact on education policy? Oh, man. Next we've got husbands and wives, and then in parentheses, marriage and divorce laws. Again, I disagree. You could have husbands and husbands, or you could have wives and wives, spouses. But they're trying to say that when we're talking about marriage and divorce laws, we're talking about husbands and wives. That's it. Oh man. The next thing is hurting souls. Religious freedom laws. Yeah. Not the same thing, actually. Because while there are laws that have to do with the civil liberties of people when they are expressing their freedom of religion, and I'm saying this as a voter registration drive organizer, as a state delegate, as a polling place coordinator. I have never seen any ballot measure about whether or not we should hurt souls. In fact, I've never seen a ballot measure or law that would even dignify that souls exist. I've never seen that. I've never seen the word souls in a law. I'm going to have to look this up, like at Cornell Law University. Just like do a quick search to see, like, has there ever been a law about a soul and whether or not you can hurt it. But, yeah. There are no laws about souls, damn it. Next paragraph. And that's only the beginning. So this election year, prayerfully commit to 1. Be registered, 2. Be informed, and 3. Vote according to your values. I guess the only part that I disagree with is the prayerfully commit, because I want people to, like, seriously commit and then do it. Just go do it. Do it right now. Vote. But yeah, be registered, be informed, and vote according to your values. Now they're saying Christian values, right? But if your values are those of a Christian, and you have, this set of values, and you think that you're voting in your own best interests, by all means, vote that way. Or if you value voting in the interests of others, vote that way. Vote your own values, whatever they are. This page right here, it says, a final word. It is absolutely critical as Christians that we get registered, be informed, and vote according to our values. As believers, we have a duty to be involved in the democratic process. Again, they only want Christians to get involved, not everyone. Not everyone, just the Christians and the believers. But our charge is not simply to vote the way our friends or family vote, or the way a political party wants us to vote, or with concern only for our personal finances. Instead, we must vote our values, our beliefs, and our convictions. Okay, I might not agree with their beliefs and their convictions and their values, but I do think that people should vote their own beliefs, values, and convictions. I'll give them that. German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said, "Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. And these days, not to vote is to vote against your values." Well, that last part was not Dietrich's quote. They just tacked that on. And I guess when they say against your values, they mean, against Christianity and Christ. So it's anti-Christian to not vote. Not exactly the tact that I would take to get people to vote ever. Because I don't believe in spiritual blackmail. Like saying, if you don't do this, God's gonna hate you, or you're making baby Jesus cry. No, I'm just going to tell you that it is your responsibility to vote, and it's in your best interests. And then this next page here, it says, imagine the impact that Americans of faith can have on the future of our nation, the character of its leadership, and the health of its families if we all applied biblical principles to every aspect of our lives, including committing to vote. And then it's got a picture of a family. Happy Christian family. And yeah. Since it's the only photo in this pamphlet, I'm not going to really criticize the photo itself, but were this something like their full magazine or or the magazine of somebody else. I have been known to go through it and look at all of their nice, pretty families and make judgments on how they all look homogenous. But this being the only picture in this whole thing, this right here, this is the model that they're looking for you to create. Marriage of man and woman together, 2 kids, white picket fence. Yeah. It's not for everyone, though. They think it should be, but whatever. Register to vote. It's easy. Number 1, obtain a voter registration form by visiting committovote2012.com or contacting your state government. It's easier to go to other websites, but I imagine this is being spread around all over the country, so I guess they... you know what? I wonder if they are registered as a voter registration drive. I'll check on that later. Register your friends. I'm cool with that. Vote your values. Educate yourself on election issues. And the Commit to Vote 2012 website is a great place to start. Okay, I'm gonna disagree there. I'm gonna say go ahead and educate yourself on election issues. That's cool. But I'm gonna say the committovote2012.com website is not probably the best place to start. And it says look for the social issues link. I'm not even going to go to their website right now. I know it's run by Focus on the Family, and I'm just on their record alone and how they treated the Last Planet of the Apes movie on their website. They're clueless. I don't want to hear what they have to say. Choose a race. Know what the candidates stand for. Weigh the candidates' values against the principles found in God's Word. And choose the candidates whose views most closely match Scripture. I'm going to agree with choose a race. Know what the candidates stand for. I'm going to agree with that. Weigh the candidates' values against the principles found in God's Word. If they mean that completely, which I know they don't. I would say yeah, go ahead. You know, if there are values that you have had, I think you should weigh what the candidates say about God's Word. You're going to notice that Democrats and Republicans both have Jesus on their resume, and they both have different interpretations of God's Word. But the choose the candidates whose views most closely match Scripture, I'm going to disagree with. I'm going to say choose the best one. Choose the one that's best for our day and age. We're alive right now. People wrote some things 2,000 years ago. That stuff has less to do with our lives than a math textbook. And I'm talking like algebra that you never use in your life. The stuff that you were complaining about in high school. I'm never going to use this. The Bible should have less to do with your life than that math textbook. Next paragraph. Pray for the election. Ugh, not going to happen here, but okay. Election day is fast approaching, and there is much at stake. In many ways, the future of our nation hangs in the balance. We encourage all concerned Christians to devote themselves to focused prayer for the election and for our nation. there are. I disagree with this paragraph. There are much more fruitful ways to be active and have activism for your values than thinking really hard about magically changing the outcome of something. Instead of telling people to think magically about it, I think it would behoove Focus on the Family to tell the people that read their pamphlets to talk to their neighbors and try to sway their neighbor's opinion. That's what I'm going to do. Talk to people, make videos talking to hundreds of people. I'm going to make, a few appearances here and there, mostly going out to film activism, but yeah. Magical thinking is probably the least productive thing that you could do, unless you are somehow calming yourself and meditating and you're getting some sort of, therapy out of it that way. But really, it doesn't really affect the real world. We live in this thing called reality, and although you can have your own beliefs and opinions about reality, that are yours, the facts in reality, you can't just make shit up about it. You can't change it by magically thinking. Okay? If you went out with your hands and worked on fixing the problem, or you talk to people and you network, and do things in the physical world, you can change things. But when you just magically think, not so much. Thinking, though, without thinking that your thoughts have magic. Thinking about things before you act in order to change what you think is wrong. Thinking is good. Pre-thinking things out before you act. But magical thinking, not so much. Everybody get ready. I'm about to drop Focus on the Family. There you go. Anybody wants to know Focus on the Family's phone number and address? It's right there on the screen. Nobody cares, though. Now, the other thing that this lady handed to me, it's not actually from Focus on the Family. This is from the Colorado Family Institute. I really think that we should start a pro-LGBT group with the word family in it. And for family, we should, make the letters of the word family rainbow colored. Because, when Focus on the Family and Colorado Family Institute use the word family, I get the impression that they actually think that there's a fifth definition of family that says organization that hates gay people and tries to oppress them through legislature. Yeah. This is Colorado Family Institute's 2012 voter guide, right? And I actually did look into this before I started this video. What's interesting about this is they just asked a whole bunch of questions of every candidate and said whether they support, oppose, or their positions are unknown about each thing. So they made this chart, right? And then they asked questions. The questions are the continuation of the 2001 federal income tax cuts permanent? U.S. Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade abortion decision? Repeal the Defense of Marriage Act? Parental choice of schools and education? And further restrictions on the right to keep and bear arms? And a whole bunch of other questions like that. But all they did was make a chart and put little S's and O's and X's. What they did not do, for the presidential candidates, the congressional candidates, and the Colorado State Senate and House candidates, they did not put whether or not to vote for that person. You know why they didn't put whether or not to vote for the person? Because, especially here in Colorado, the difference between a Republican and a Democrat does not always mean who votes more like Focus on the Family and the Colorado Family Institute want you to vote. There are Democrats who consider themselves more Christian than the Republicans they're running against. So they don't tell you who to vote for. There's no vote for this guy. And I think also that has to do with after the election, they probably want to be able to buy what the winner is going to do with lobbying money. So they really don't want to hitch themselves to the loser. So yeah, they're thinkers. They're thinking ahead. What they do have on the end here, they have the three statewide ballot initiatives in Colorado, and they have them all in this back part. But the only one thing in this entire pamphlet that they tell people to vote on, one way or the other, is Amendment 64, the legalization and taxation of marijuana, period, for people 21 and over. Right there, they say, vote no on Amendment 64. The other two, they just say what it is, and then tell you, vote like God would vote. Vote for Jesus. Make the decision yourself. We don't want to pre-make the decision. But apparently Jesus does not like everyone to have pot. And that's a given. Although I could probably tell you, go through all of my friends who are marijuana activists, and a good number of them are religious and Christian. So, yeah. I got some other mail that I wanted to show you guys. This one here, it says, don't be a day late and $1 short. I got to cover up my address here, but don't be a day late and $1 short. Vote Republican, right? And then it has on the back some other stuff here. $1 trillion deficits, more debt added, increased borrowing, bipartisan welfare reform gutted. We can't afford 4 more years, can you? And it's got this guy with he's pulling his pocket empty. So, next we've got another postcard from apparently the same people. Take the steps to end the Democrats' wasteful spending. Vote Republican. That's what it says on the outside. And then, stop the Democrats' wasteful spending. Let's see. Open this. I'm going to talk about wasteful spending. I'm getting a lot of junk mail in my mailbox. The Democrats aren't wasting money putting paper in my mailbox. Let's see. Run to the early vote location nearest you. I already did that. I actually have a video on my channel already from the Citadel Mall. And there's 4 places in my city where you can early vote. And yeah. Vote Republican to stop the Democrats' wasteful spending. They're responsible for the most rapid increase in the debt. The national debt has increased more than $5.4 trillion in the last 4 years. Were the Democrats in control of uh, Congress when this happened? I don't think they were. That might be a really big facepalm right there. Let's see. The federal deficit will now top $1 trillion for the fourth year in a row. Every American share of the national debt has increased by approximately $16,000. Wow. Big government and runaway spending will add over $6 trillion in deficits over the next 10 years. The Democrats' health care law will drive up federal spending by nearly $1.7 trillion over the next 10 years. I really don't know if those numbers are true. Um, but you know what we could do? I could save this piece of mail for 10 years and then take it out and 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 then compare the numbers that they have to what actually happens. You know? In fact, 10 years from now, from the upload date of this video, if you're watching this video and YouTube makes it another 10 years, remind me that I'm going to file this in my file cabinet, and it's going to be in my junk mail file. Remind me to look for this particular piece of paper, you YouTube viewers. I know it's going to happen. Somebody's going to watch this video like 10 years late. Remind me to look at this and then see if these numbers actually pan out. Take the steps to end the Democrats' wasteful spending. I like the message to go vote early, but, scaring people into voting? Come on. Can we just get away from the scaring? And this one I got in the mail, it looks like an ATM. And it says, "Do you accept the Democrats' charges?" Let's see, gotta cover up the address. Deny the Democrats 4 more years of wasteful spending. By the way, these are all paid for by the Colorado Republican Committee, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Just coloradogop.org. Okay. That's this one. And then if I open it up, it's got more of this gummy stuff holding it together. Gummy sticky stuff with, ew. Yeah. Gotta, pull the gummy apart before I want to read this, because I don't want to get gummy all over stuff. Deny the Democrats 4 more years of wasteful spending. Vote early, vote Republican. The Democrats promised to cut the deficit. They failed. Instead, the Democrats are responsible for the most rapid increase of debt. Basically says everything that the last thing said, except for it has an ATM graphic where apparently Democrats have been making ATM machines spit out money, which I don't follow how that is a bad thing. How the graphic has money coming out of, flying out of an ATM. I think the problem for me is that I can't get money to fly out of an ATM like this. I would like money, like when I put my card in, and not my credit card, my debit card, my check card. I want money to fly out at me. By the way, for those of you who don't know this about me, I don't know if I've said it in the years that I've been on the Agent of Doubt channel. I don't have a credit card. I actually live in the black, not in the red, and it's a cultural value. I won't say that it's tied to my religion at all. It's just I was raised to not live in debt. Yeah, the closest thing I've had to debt was I used to have student loans that I got reimbursed through my job to pay off, and for a little while I would have a debt and then I would pay it off with my reimbursement from a job, because that's the way that you're supposed to go to school in America. They just set it up to where, they expect you to take out a loan because that's how you go to school. If you tried to pay cash and go to a college, they would probably look at you like the BMG dog next to the record player, like, huh? You don't want to go into debt? What? I don't understand. You're a student, aren't you? Last thing I want to show you guys in this Ramble video, and this didn't start out to be a Ramble video. I didn't think that this was going to take this long. I just brought a stack of mail and those two things that lady handed me as I walked out of the church, okay? I didn't think this was going to be this long of a Ramble video. I've got a lot of other videos that I need to make, but I need to get this off my chest. Okay. This one says, time is money. Vote early and save. Okay. From the same people, the Colorado Republican Committee, the other side just says, time is money. It's got a watch and money, instead of like money flowing out of an hourglass, like on the other side. I'm gonna open this up, but I'm really scared of what this is gonna say, because it already. I'm getting this fear of this is gonna say something really stupid. Another day, another billion. Democrats are responsible for the most rapid increase in the debt, increasing the national debt by $5.4 trillion in the last 4 years. It's basically saying the same thing as all the other things that they've sent me. This being the fourth piece of paper that they've sent me. But this one didn't have gummy stuff. It had one of those paper, like, round stickers that just closes it together. It says, vote early for Republican leaders who will restore the welfare to work requirement. And it says early voting takes place the 22nd to November 2nd. Don't wait, vote Republican. Again, drawing on my experience as a delegate, as a voter registration drive organizer, and as a polling place coordinator, I have a problem with just the message of time is money, so you need to vote early. Here's the thing. Just because you vote early doesn't mean that those candidates are going to get into office any earlier to change whatever it is that you want them to change, so that your tax rate goes up or down. Okay? Time being money, that is that's a bit of colloquial wisdom, right? But in this case, where it concerns voting, it does not matter if you vote early. The results don't come in any earlier. You will get the results on November 6th, staying up way fucking late at night, just like all the rest of us. And whether or not your candidate gets in will not be any earlier if you early vote. Okay? This is retarded. Time is money. Early vote and save. You're not saving anything more than if you voted on election day. This is just scare tactics to get you to vote. I don't really like scare tactics. I don't like scare tactics in my news. I don't like scare tactics in my politics. And this is bad scare tactics. And this is retarded scare tactics. I mean, I would hope that most people could see that they're not going to save any more money by voting early or on election day. You know? It's better to vote early because you get it done and it doesn't come down to a deadline that you might miss. You know? But ugh, this is retarded. This is not worth the paper that it's printed on. You know? And these people that are telling me that time is money should know that 4 mailings saying the exact damn thing sent to the same person is not cost effective. I got the message the first fucking time. You saw me skip over the last 3 things because I didn't even want to read them out in this Ramble video because it said the exact damn things, okay? This paper with the gummy shit and the tape and the postage, that shit costs money. It costs non-profit money because they get the special non-profit postage rate. But still, chopping down plenty of trees, which cost money, and then you're going to fucking dictate to me that I need to go vote because you have my best fucking financial interests at heart? Ugh. You know, and I make this rant. I just want you guys to know I haven't gotten any mail from any Democrats. Not Obama, not Pete Lee, and no congressman who's a Democrat. Misha Lusov didn't mail me anything. He's from the Green Party. He's the liberal in the congressional race where I live. Good friend of mine, too. So, yeah. No Democrats or liberals have mailed me anything. That's the end of this ramble. Next videos that I put out should be my experience at polling place coordinator training and my my video that I just made where I recorded the Jim Daly, John Weiss civil discourse. And then a whole bunch of videos that I'm going to put out in the run-up to the election will be from a rally for We Are Women. Take care, everyone. Turn off.